بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وبعد. Alhamdulillah, last week we finished Surah Al-Naba, the 78th surah in the Quran, in the order we have now. And today inshallah we will start Surah Al-Naazi'aat. And Surah Al-Naazi'aat is the 79th surah in the order of the Quran compilation that we have now. It was the 81st surah in the order of revelation according to Imam Taha ibn Ashur. The 81st surah, meaning it's still an early Makkan surah. Again, we talked about how this shows you how many surahs actually came down, how much Quran actually came down in the very early part of the prophethood of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's an agreed upon opinion between the ulama that it's an early Makkan surah. It came right after Surah Al-Naba. So this is a surah that's in the Quran. It's right after the surah. It was actually revealed after, because a lot of the portions of the Quran, they weren't necessarily revealed one after the other, but they were compiled that way. But this is one case where the surah that comes after Surah Al-Naba is actually the same order as the revelation. Surah Al-Naba came first, and then the surah came down after that. Amongst the names of the surah, the most common that we find is Al-Naazi'aat, which is one of the first words in the surah. When Allah swears by Al-Naazi'aat, those that extract. Another word that is commonly not commonly referred to is As-Sahira. It's also a word that comes up within the first passage of this surah, which means either constantly awake or the surface of the earth. And another name, which is even more rarely referred to in this surah, is At-Tamma, because the word At-Tamma comes in the surah. And we talked about why these surahs have these names. They're not descriptive of the theme of the surah. The titles of the surah are just something that sets this surah apart from another surah. Like Surah Al-Baqarah, for example, it's a huge surah, but the instance or the mention of the story of the cow, Al-Baqarah, is very short. But it's called that because that is the only surah in the Quran that story is mentioned in. So it stands out with that name. So again, the titles don't necessarily say, here's what this surah is going to talk about from A to Z. It's just a way to distinguish one surah from the other surah. So they have varying names, some more common than others. And there are others which are even more rare, but we didn't mention them here. The theme of this surah, again, is the same as that of Surah Al-Naba, because it's the same time period. It's coming right after that surah, and that is the affirmation of the akhirah, the hereafter. The possibility that life after death is going to be real, and that the reward for the righteous, the punishment for those who reject, is going to be something real. And in this surah, however, kind of the same theme is used, but in a different style, right? And that theme is that the creation of Allah that exists and its regulation is greater. That's a greater thing than recreating it again. Meaning Allah Azza wa Jalla has already made these things, and here is how He has, He's taking care of all of the order and everything in creation. So to recreate all of this is actually easier. To make this in the first place would be more difficult. If that was a concept that existed, would be more difficult than recreating it. So this is kind of the theme in this surah. Whereas in the previous surah, even though it's similar, Allah is saying, look at what already exists. Based on what already exists, you can understand that I am capable of already making a hereafter and creating all these other things that exist as well. So we'll get into the surah, and we'll do the first 14 ayat. This is the first main passage of the surah. Inshallah, the first 5 are together, the next are kind of together as well. But the surah starts off with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swearing by certain things. Right? So He says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَالنَّازِعَاتِ غَرْقًا وَالنَّاشِطَاتِ نَشْطًا وَالسَّابِحَاتِ سَبْحًا فَالسَّابِقَاتِ سَبْقًا فَالْمُدَبِّرَاتِ أَمْرًا. And this is a translation by Sahih International, and it says, by those, and you see in parentheses here, angels. Right? So the text of the Quran doesn't specify that they're angels. But the Mufassirin, they have talked about this. That's why the translator takes this word. But we're going to try to keep the translator's notes out of here. So by those who extract with death. The word they chose is with violence. Literally it means with death. By those who extract with death, and by those who remove with ease, and by those who glide as if swimming, and by those who race each other as in a race, and by those who arrange the matter. Right? So these are the things that Allah is swearing by. 5 things Allah is swearing by. And what's important to note is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by various things in the Quran. Right? He swears by wattini was zaytun, the fig, and the olive, and so on. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by so many things. But for us, it is actually prohibited for us to swear by other things other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we can only swear by Allah. We can only say by Allah. And the reason the ulama they give is this: because Allah Azza wa Jalla is the one who owns and creates everything, so He can swear by whatever He wants. But for us, He has legislated that we can only swear by Him. So we can't take oaths by other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So sometimes we have things in our cultures where we swear by certain things or by certain people, right? Or by certain other, so that we're not technically allowed to do that. We can only swear by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We can only say, I swear by Allah that this is going to happen. I swear by Allah that I will do this. We cannot swear by other things, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself will swear by whatever he wants. And here he's swearing by 5 things which are kind of ambiguous. Because again, the Mufassirin, the companions of the Prophet ﷺ have described these as being angels, right? Which is one opinion. But the miraculous nature of the Quran, the miraculous nature of the Arabic language that Allah uses is that He gives things in ways they can mean more than one thing without ever contradicting each other, but giving a more complete meaning. And we'll see that in a second here. So Nazi'at, it can either refer to the angels and those that will, Nazi'at, those that extract with violence or with depth, meaning those angels that will remove the souls of the disbelievers at the time of their death. And this is because we know that when the disbelievers or the rejectors, their souls are removed, the punishment starts from right there. So it's not very easy process for them to go through to have their souls removed. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing by these angels. And this is mentioned first. Why is the angel that is taking the soul out of the believer or the disbeliever mentioned first? Because the whole theme of this surah, which does have one theme, is affirmation of the hereafter. The hereafter starts the point of your death. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is first swearing by the angel that will remove the soul of the disbeliever, of the rejector, because they are the ones that are rejecting the idea of the hereafter, so he starts with that. وَالنَّازِعَاتِ غَرْقًا, and غَرْقًا means to go really deep into something, right? To go deep into something, and the nazi'at means to extract, to pull it out, right? So this is a description of what these angels will do when they meet this. This can also be a description of the stars, as they move from one part of the horizon to the other part of the horizon. This is another opinion of the Mufassirin, a lesser opinion. The more common, agreed upon opinion is that this is referring to the angels. And another thing this can apply to, based on the language, Nazi'at and Gharqa, is the archers in battle. And it's describing their their arrows as they're in their bows, right? Because they're pulling them back. Just like you're going to be pulling something out, they're pulling their arrows back, and those arrows, they fly deep, right, into the enemy. So 3 things that can kind of be implied here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing by these things. By the angels specifically when they pull out the soul of the disbeliever, or by the archers, right? A scene of a battlefield where the archer is pulling back on his arrow. وَالنَّاشِطَاتِ نَشْطًا, and by those who remove with ease. And nashitat, it means to rush to do something quickly and easily. That's called nishat, right? Nishat means to be active in Arabic, right? Nishat, because you want to do something, you want to get it done, you're happy to do it, so it happens with ease. So this refers to the angels that will remove the souls of the believers with ease. Because the soul of the believer will come out very easily. And it will want to come out, it will want to, because the reward for the believer starts at the moment of his death as well. This can also be referred to the souls themselves, that they want to leave. They want to be active and coming out of the body. And again, this can be another description of the stars as they move, and also another description of the battlefield. Right? وَالنَّاشِطَاتِ نَشْطًا, this kind of the people that are moving fast through the battlefield as well, and I didn't include that here. وَالسَّابِحَاتِ سَبْحًا, then Allah says by those angels who swim, or as if they are gliding, who move as fast as if they are gliding, or by those who move as if they are gliding. Again, the description of the angels as they move through the skies, right? The description of the angels as they're moving through the skies, the stars as they're moving through the skies, they can seem to be gliding, especially if you look at them, later on at how their movement actually happens in the horizon. And it can also refer to the horses as an army as they move in the battle, the cavalry as it's going, like it's just gliding through across the battlefield. There's more imagery that's being painted here. وَالسَّابِقَاتِ سَبْقًا, and those who race each other as if they're in a race, right? Those who are racing each other, trying to beat one another as if they're in a race. Sabiqat, it literally means to reach an intended place before the other person that's also trying to reach that place, right? So that's where the term race actually comes from. But it can also mean to go somewhere quickly without necessarily competing with somebody, and to have power over something, right? This is what the linguistic meaning is. So again, it's the description of the angels and the speed at which they move, right? So they're gliding through the skies, but also the speed at which they move. When they're told to do something, they rush to it. They do it as fast as they can. This is also a description of the speed of the attacking horses, right? The speed of the attacking horses. An interesting point here, if you ever tried memorizing this surah, and you realize that the letter waw comes in the beginning, right? وَالنَّاشِطَاتِ, وَالنَّازِعَاتِ, وَالنَّاشِطَاتِ, وَالسَّابِحَاتِ, and then it changes to فَالسَّابِقَاتِ with the fa, right? فَالْمُدَبِّرَاتِ, right? So there's a difference here. Why is waw in the beginning? And that's Allah is swearing by that, and also it changes to fa. This happens in certain surahs, right? So Surah Al-Mursalat, Surah Al-Dhariyat, it starts with the waw, the same pattern, but then the letter fa comes in. So the difference is that when the letter waw comes in, it's actually giving you a different description of something. And when the letter fa comes in, it's describing the thing that's mentioned before. Right? This is the kind of the way. So when you figure these things out, if you can understand it from this perspective, it's easy to memorize when some surahs that start like this. Because you know that when it's saying fa, it's actually describing something that came before. So now you know when to say fa and when not to say wa. That's just a side note there. But so this فَالسَّابِقَاتِ is describing the previous quality that's mentioned, which is the quality of gliding really fast. So they're moving really fast and they're trying to get to their intended place. فَالْمُدَبِّرَاتِ أَمْرًا. And why are they moving so fast? Because they are those who arrange each matter. They're in charge of fulfilling certain duties. Right? And so this is the description of the angels that carry out the commands, the duties that Allah has assigned them to, or the description of the affairs of war taking place. He's pulling back on his arrow, the horses are running across, everything is happening, the victory is being planned. These are two images that can come into mind based on the language of these ayat. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing by these 5 things in the beginning, and what is He swearing by? That will come next. But why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swearing by the angels and their attributes? Right? Why is this surah starting with Allah swearing by the angels and their attributes? One thing to note is the pagans, the mushrikeen of Mecca, they believed in the angels, right? And they even said the angels are, وَلِيَعْذُ بِاللَّهِ, the daughters of Allah. So they had this false belief that the angels were daughters of Allah. But they believed that there were a creation called angels. They believed that these angels carried out Allah's affairs. And they believed that angels also took the soul at the time of a person's death. These were things that were established with them, and generally they're established with most of the religions, or the monotheistic religions out there as well, but even some of the pagan cultures. But they knew about the angels and they believed in them. So when Allah is talking about, things that happen in this manner, when He's referring to the angels, then it's not something that's outside their realm of understanding. They understood what was being spoken about. So they're being mentioned because the same angels that take the soul out of a person's body, they're being told by this that same angel can be commanded to put it back into someone's body. Right? They're rejecting the idea of a hereafter. Allah says, well, these angels, they take out the souls of your body. I can command them to put it back in. Right? These same angels that are gliding through the skies, taking care of every matter, making sure, everything that Allah has told this universe to abide by is abiding by. Right? All the laws of nature that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking care of, all the, the rain and everything, all the order that exists, that is done through Allah's commands and carried out through these angels. If Allah wants, He can command these angels to, cause a disruption in that command. And everything can be disturbed. Everything can be destroyed. So what He's saying is that these are things that I am making happening through the angels, and if I want to, I can command them to do other things. And they will make other things happen as well. When you look at it from the point of view of the war imagery, the battlefield, right? The archer pulling back, the horses running through. What is this? This is also a hidden prophecy. Hidden prophecy that Allah is swearing by the fact that there are going to be, archers and horses running fast, and He's describing a battlefield, and He's hinting to the conquest of Mecca. Some of the Mufassirin, they say the conquest of Mecca, or the other wars that the pagans fought against the Muslims and they lost. Right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing by these, that the day of judgment will definitely happen, because their situation will change. So this is also one of the hidden prophecies in the Quran, that the Muslims will have the upper hand, and this is early in the Meccan period. This is when the Prophet ﷺ has just started his da'wah, calling people to Islam. They're being persecuted. They're very few in number. They're powerless. And here Allah is telling them, soon enough, you're going to be seeing this imagery where these horses will be coming, the archers will be throwing their bows, and the affairs of war will be taking place. Why? Because there will be a war between the two sides. So this is kind of the imagery that's being presented. And then right after this, Allah says, يَوْمَ تَرْجُفُ الرَّاجِفَةِ. The day on that day, the blast will shake everything. Right? On that day, the blast of the horn will convulse everything, specifically the earth. تَتْبَعُهَا الرَّادِفَةِ. There will follow it the subsequent one, meaning another blast. And we talked about this in Surah An-Naba. How many blowings of the horn there are going to be when Israfil is going to blow in the horn? One to cause destruction, and one to cause the resurrection. So Allah is telling them, on that day, the blast of the horn will shake everything. Right? He's swearing by these angels that everything can be disturbed. Boom, on that day, when that will happen, everything will be destroyed. تَتْبَعُهَا الرَّادِفَةِ. Another one will follow it, and you will be back, right? You will be raised a bit. That's the second blowing of the horn. And on that day, Allah says, قُلُوبُ يَوْمَئِذٍ وَاجِفَةً. Hearts that day will tremble. Right? أَبْصَارُهَا خَاشِعَةً. Their eyes will be humble. Now when Allah says hearts that day will be, trembling, He's not saying everybody's hearts. Some hearts, right? This is indefinite. Some hearts will be trembling. The eyes of those people whose hearts are trembling, they will be humble, meaning submissive. They will be shocked, looking down, right? Not able to take in what's happening. Why? Because these are the same people that rejected the very idea that this was going to happen. They rejected that, we're going to be raised back after life. They ridiculed this. But Allah is saying that on that day when this happens, those very people, قُلُوبُ يَوْمَئِذٍ وَاجِفَةٌ, their hearts will be trembling. Their eyes will be submissive and humble because of now what they have to face. They realize we were completely wrong. Right? And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. Rajifa, يَوْمَ تَرْجُفُ الرَّاجِفَةِ is like a loud shout, referring to again the first blowing of the horn. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions elsewhere in the Quran, يَوْمَ تَرْجُفُ الْأَرْضُ وَالْجِبَالُ, that when the day that the earth and the mountains will convulse, will shake. Right? So this shaking is referring to the whole entire earth, being shaken and destroyed. Al-Radifa, meaning the next one, the next blowing of the horn. And Allah Azza wa Jalla in Surah Al-Zumar, He mentions this very explicitly. He says, وَنُفِخَ فِي السُّورِ فَصَعِقَ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا مَنْ شَاءَ اللَّهِ ثُمَّ نُفِخَ فِيهِ أُخْرَى فَإِذَا هُمْ قِيَامٌ يَنْظُرُونَ. That the horn will be blown, and everyone on this earth will be destroyed, will fall dead, unconscious. Everyone who is in the skies, everyone who is in the earth, except for whoever Allah wills. ثُمَّ نُفِخَ فِي أُخْرَى. Then another blowing of the horn will happen. فَإِذَا هُمْ قِيَامٌ يَنْظُرُونَ. They will be standing and looking around as to what's going on now. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly saying these are the two blowings of the horns that will happen. Again, the hearts and trembling and the eyes being humbled. Again, the hearts of those who disbelieve. And khashiyah means humbled or submissive or just completely. And we have this quality in our salah, in our prayer, which is called khushu', which is kind of the same quality, right? So we have this khushu', which is we're supposed to have in our salah, and the same word is used to describe them. And that quality is of realizing your place before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Realizing, how low you are and how high Allah is while you are in prayer. And that concentration helps you to achieve this quality of khushu', this quality that you're humble, focused in your salah, right? There's a focus on the outside, which is you doing everything you're supposed to do, the physical motions. And then there is that submissiveness on the inside, which is called khushu', which is, being focused and doing your best to keep everything else outside, outside your head, and then keeping your focus in your prayer. It's a difficult thing, you have to struggle through it, but this is that quality of being humble, of being submissive, right? Standing silently, looking down before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the idea as well. And then Allah says, يَقُولُونَ أَإِنَّا لَمَرْدُودُونَ فِي الْحَافِرَةِ أَإِذَا كُنَّ عِظَامًا نَخِرَةً قَالُوا تِلْكَ إِذًا كَرَّةٌ خَاسِرَةٌ. So he quotes what some of these people were saying. He says, they are presently saying, we will indeed be returned to our former state. Will we indeed be returned to our former state? Meaning we're going to be brought back to life just as we were before. And they were saying this as a form of ridicule, of ridiculing the Prophet ﷺ. Will we indeed be returned to our former state of life, even if we should be decayed bones? Right? Our bones become, decayed and into the earth and go away. Someone's going to bring us back to life. And they said, تِلْكَ إِذًا كَرَّةٌ خَاسِرَةٌ. They say that will be a losing return. And again, hafira, the word here refers to a previous state of something. It literally, linguistically means that they said that a person returns to his hafira, meaning when a person is walking in the sand and he leaves footprints, right? And hufr is a hole or something you dig in the ground. So you leave footprints in the ground. If you were to backtrack those footprints and go back to where you came from, that's what the word hafira means, right? It's very interesting how the language works, right? It's referring to the place where a person starts and he's able to go and he follows his footprints back and he ends up in the same place. That's his original state where he started from. That's hafira, right? It also refers to the actual grave itself. The actual grave, that the hole that is dug out in the ground, the hafira, can also be that. So a previous state, meaning we're going to be alive after we've been decayed bones, or that we're going to be brought back together in this grave after we've been decayed and our bones have decayed as well. And again, one of the things Imam Taha ibn Ashur mentions is that it was common for them to ridicule the concept of the hereafter in the form of a question, which is a really interesting point that he brings up. That when they would ridicule the akhirah, they would do it in the form of a question. Another example of that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Yasin says, وَضَرَبَ لَنَا مَثَلًا وَنَسِيَ خَلْقَهُ قَالَ مَنْ يُحْيِي الْعِظَامَ وَهِيَ رَمِيمٌ. He strikes for us an example, yet he forgets his own creation, and he says, who is going to bring these bones back after they have decayed and become dust or whatever? They have gone away. Who is going to bring these back? So they would ask these questions, and they would ask or ridicule the concept of the akhirah, the hereafter, in the form of a question. And so Allah is quoting what they say, and the reason He's quoting it, He uses the present tense, يَقُولُونَ. They are currently saying, is because there will always be people that are saying that as well. People that will be questioning the concept of the akhirah, the life after death. So He's addressing them. And then قَالُوا تِلْكَ إِذًا كَرَّةٌ خَاسِرَةٌ. They say indeed that will be a losing return. This is the highest point of their ridicule. Meaning they're saying, if that really was to happen, we're really going to be in a bad spot. Right? Because they realize if that really happens, then we're going to be the ones that fail. But they had the audacity to actually say it as a form of ridicule. right? We're going to be brought together after our bones are decayed, right? If that really happens, we're in trouble, right? It's kind of the tone with which they are saying it. They're just joking about it. And then right after this, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the last two ayat of this passage, and He says, فَإِنَّمَا هِيَ زَجَرَةٌ وَاحِدَةٌ. Right? Immediately, all it takes is one blowing of the horn. It's one shout. فَإِذَا هُمْ بِالسَّاهِرَةِ. And suddenly they will be alert upon the earth's surface. And the language here is also showing us that immediately after that second blowing of the horn, فَإِذَا هُمْ بِالسَّاهِرَةِ, immediately, without any wastage of time, there's going to be no period of time going by. When that second horn is blown, immediately people will come back together and will be resurrected from their graves. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, you are ridiculing the fact that this can actually happen. Here's how fast I can make it happen. Right? These are the angels that glide through the skies, that take care of all of this that I've already created. And if I want, I can also command them to do the opposite, which He will command Israfil to blow on the horn, and the order will be disturbed. Right? Everything will change. Everything which is now running smoothly, the earth is not shaking, the mountains are not crumbling, all of this will change, the earth will shake, the mountains will crumble, there will be destruction by Allah's command, and He can cause this to happen anytime He wants. But this is the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If this is what He has chosen to do, that's what He has chosen to do. Right? But He's telling us it's going to happen and what you should do to prepare for it. And then He says, فَإِنَّمَا هِي زَجْرَةٌ وَاحِدَةٌ. And zajra is a speech that commands or forbids in a manner that is angry or stern. Right? Zajr is like for kalam, that when you scold somebody, you rebuke somebody, right? That's called zajra. And this is used to refer to the shout, meaning it kind of tells you the nature of this blowing of the horn. It's not going to be something, maybe that's peaceful sounding. It's going to be something that's blasting, something that's going to be violent as well. And then sahira, فَإِذَا هُمْ بِالسَّاهِرَةِ. Sahira refers to the surface of the earth. It'll be flat, have no vegetation, where people will be gathered. This is the description of the land that people will be gathered upon. Allah Azza wa Jalla will recreate whatever He recreates for people to be gathered upon. And the root word sahara or sahira literally means to stay awake at night, not to be able to sleep. That's sahar, to be not being able to sleep, staying awake all night. And then another meaning that's implied here is that when people are resurrected, they're not going to be, it's going to be a long time before Judgment Day starts and all these things happen. They're not going to go to sleep. There's not going to be any rest. It's going to be a plane, they're going to be gathered, and they're going to be awake continuously for the period of time that they're gathered there. And then things are going to move on as they move on. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again is telling us exactly what's going to happen. He's challenging them in the fact that He's reminding them, everything you already believe in that exists because I command it to, and if I wanted to, I can change it. I can make things happen, because Allah is not powerless to do that. And this is the end of the first passage, and then the theme will change next week we go over the next passage. It changes now into a story. The story of Musa and Fir'aun, Moses and the Pharaoh, and Allah talks about what his mission was to the Pharaoh, and we'll talk about why it changes slightly to that. The theme slightly changes in the middle, even though it's still talking about the same overall theme. We'll get to that next week, inshallah. If there are any questions or comments, inshallah, we'll take them. Yes?
Tadabbur means like, reflecting.
Mm-hmm.
Why it is arranging things, not reflecting?
So tadbir, hang on, say that word again you said? Tadabbur is a different word.
Is it?
Yeah, that's tadabbara, and this is, sorry. This from the same root, tadabbur, yeah. Basically, dabbara, yudabbiru, mudabbirat, it means to think of something, to come up with a plan, and to execute that plan. That's tadbir. Tadbir. It's not tadabbur. Tadabbur is a slightly different meaning. Tadbir is the word that's being used here. That is to come up with an idea, a plan, and then to execute that plan. So فَالْمُدَبِّرَاتِ أَمْرًا, they're the ones that have been given a set of instructions. They have everything they need to do, and they're going to go and take care of it. That's mudabbirat. And tadabbur is kind of to think deeply about something. So it comes from the same root word. Yeah, it comes from the same root word. I don't know exactly what it would mean. I don't want to say something wrong. But it has a different meaning in the different form that it's in. So tadabbur means to reflect, but tadbir means but tadbir has the meaning of reflecting and thinking before you carry out and then carrying out the plan. So, Jazakallah khair. Any other questions or comments? سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك وجزاكم الله خيرا.